Hey fam, today is March 13th, Friday the 13th, and I have some great news, if you haven't already heard. I had my 3-month oncology surveillance checkup yesterday in LA, and so there was a marker that for this specific adenocarcinoma of the rectum that they watch called CEA, and it's not a very accurate. It's not very accurate because there are other things that can trigger it, but when it is elevated, it's could trigger a cascade of more tests and procedures and all sorts of stuff to see if there's anything to be concerned about. So at my last surveillance in December, it was elevated. So just to give you an idea, the normal range, to not to be concerned range, is 3.8 on this scale. In December, it was at 6.8. As of yesterday, the blood work we did, the day before yesterday, it was 4.4. So definitely trending in the right direction. And there were some other really good signs in the blood work. One was the creatinine, which is, kidneys. It's the first time it's been normal, in the normal range, since definitely before this last cancer. And so that would be like 3 years ago. Kidney function is still in the red, but it's trending in the right direction. A year ago, it was about 53, which means 53%. That means my kidneys were only working half. But yesterday they were in the 60s. So definitely moving, getting back. Still immunocompromised, low platelets, low white blood cell count, but just barely in both cases. And so I'm still immunocompromised and doing my best to stay away from people, and certainly away from large crowds and stuff. So I think that's just going to take however freaking long it takes, I'm doing my best to, with supplements and diet, juices and whatnot to, rebuild my system. But it's taken, here we are a year and a half after the reversal of the colostomy. 3 days after the last election. So, it's coming along. I'm coming along. I'm getting better. But you know how it is. Sometimes it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, or 1 step back in this case. So I have been training to get healthy enough to fly again. And it seems like, my last flight was last June. The day after that flight, I had an accident, had a botched launch and smashed the top of my foot. Spent all summer healing that. At the end of the summer, I was at Burning Man on my birthday, first day I got there, and I slipped in the mud and smashed my knee. Spent all fall doing a hot spring tour to heal the knee. Got strong enough to run and, do the, my little workout of standing on my head and all that stuff. And, I'm up to, make a long story short, I pulled my calf muscle working out. And so the cautionary tale is, it's the third time in a year I've done things to myself that were preventable, and it's also the third time in a year where I have made the mistake of thinking that I was hydrated, but I wasn't getting enough electrolytes. And there's a point where you can actually, drinking water is really actually flushing out the minerals in your body. So you're thinking that you're hydrating yourself when you're actually just compounding the problem. And a year ago that happened. That was the first time it happened. And I threw my back out. That set me back three weeks from my training regimen. And I think this calf muscle thing is the same story. I was running on the beach, and wonderful thing is I've been probably for at least the past month and a half, I've been swimming in the ocean, not swimming, but getting in the ocean, in Ventura and Venice and a couple other places, for a bit, for at least 5 minutes a day. And if you want to know, here, put your fingers in your ears if you don't like cussing. Yes, it's fucking cold. It's been very fucking cold. And that's kind of the point of it, is once again to that whole Wim Hof thing. It stimulates your immune system and all that kind of stuff, which I'm, all about. So yeah, things are going well. I've been staying off of here. If you've been wondering why you haven't been seeing me posting as much, there's a couple of reasons, but the main one was I felt like I needed to be more to go within more and to listen more and work on some humility. And so what happened was I was posting last spring, and I sent it out to somebody that had helped me. I'd sent out the post to somebody that had really stepped up for me, but I hadn't heard from them in a really long time. And but I sent the post anyway, and they kind of went off on me, talking about how I didn't, it's not all about me, and it turned out that they had been posting what their situation was on Facebook, and I haven't been on Facebook since 2020, since they, out of the blue, deleted my account. And he was going through, he went through survived some incredible things, like his house burned down around him, and his girlfriend left him, and all these things went down. And he had almost gone blind, and I missed all of that because I'm not on Facebook, and I was very humbled by it. And so I just I realized that in my own, self-centeredness that you get when you're going through shit like this, I forgot that, other people have lives, too, that are equally as challenging. And that the least I can do is, if I'm going to send somebody a post about me, I should at least ask them how they are, and listen to the. So in the end, it made me just, if I was going to send something out like that about me, I was going to also inquire and listen to whatever was happening, whatever came back at. And I'm so glad it all worked out, because it really reconnected me on a deeper level. Because, people get a post and they're like, "Oh, that's great news. I'm so glad to hear that." And that's smiley face back at them, but you don't really hear like what's really going on with them. So unless you ask. And so I asked, and I got, up to speed with all the things I'd been missing in my own journey. So that humbled me, and that's why I felt like I needed to be less out there about what I was dealing with. Plus, the world has been dealing with what it's been dealing with, and it just felt like, my own little struggle is my own little struggle. That said, in the past, since the fall, 4 people that I know have passed away. The first was by suicide. A young man, son of a college friend, one of my best college friend, took his own life, and that really made me choose to get quiet and process what, I'm always going to the what the fuck, right? So then my friend and partner in the study of the expansion of the Earth's subtle energy field passed away on January 12th. And, we've known one another since 1999. We met in the rain on top of the Neolithic site, Silbury Hill in southern England, on the autumnal equinox. And we started a conversation like we were in the middle of a conversation, and we've been, partnering and sharing information, supporting one another ever since. And his name's Rory Duff McQuestion, and he was from Scotland, and he was a classically trained British geologist, and graduated from the University of London. Got a job, worked for 7 years in a gold mine in southern Africa, several thousand feet underground for a number of years. And that's on his off time is when he learned how to dowse, and initially learned how to dowse for water. And when he got back to England, he learned how to dowse the subtle energy lines, ley lines and whatnot, nodes. And between 2008 and 2010, he did a daily survey for approximately a year and a half, where he measured all of when he was taking his dog on a walk, he measured something like 12 lines that were in his vicinity every day, and sometimes several times a day. And the result of that was the first comprehensive study of the ley line system of the Earth. Certainly of the ley line system of England, which he, created the first comprehensive map of the ley lines of England. And, we've been working together on this. Between 2017 and 2019, he documented the arrival of three new what were called emperor dragons, the most powerful energy lines on the planet, because what causes them is the cosmic radiation that comes from nearby galaxies, and the energy that comes from these galaxies is, while the sun, bombards the Earth's magnetosphere anyway with cosmic radiation, it's what comes from the galaxies is orders of magnitude more powerful, and but in the same ultra low frequency sound range. And so anyway, we've been working together on documenting what's been happening with the subtle energy field, and then after when this third cancer came along, about a month after I was diagnosed, he was diagnosed. And, I was really looking forward to us, getting through this together and coming out the other side, because I had so many more questions. One of his gifts was that he could distance DAOs, meaning that he didn't have to be on the spot. He could do it from England. He DAOs the world. And what was wonderful about that is he could send you a map. You could say, I'm in blah blah blah, and he could send you a map of where the ley lines are in blah blah blah, and I would go check them, and the largest off he was like 20 yards, So I texted to his son, the world has no idea what it's lost. He was immune compromised and recovering. He got rid of one of the cancers and was at a crossroads with the other one, and had started some new treatments, promising, and had to go into the hospital and contracted a lung infection and unexpectedly passed away, as I said, on January 12th. And, I wouldn't say it's been devastating necessarily, but it has been a very deep experience, both for me personally to know what I've, he's not there anymore to answer questions directly, but there is a certain sorrow for the world, because the world there are, at the moment, how many people on this planet have the ability to, have mastered distance dowsing? I'm sure that you don't know anybody, and I don't know another person that has that, although I know he was teaching people. And so it's like, being on a giant ship, and suddenly the navigator is gone. The world has lost one of its cosmic navigators, and then there's the matter of what we were working on. The reason why I had so many I had all these questions I was kind of saving up when I realized that he had taken a turn. I didn't want to tax him when he went into the hospital the last time. So I was just hoping and waiting for us both to get clear, so that we can get back to having our our correspondence, and he could answer some questions for me, and we could bounce some ideas off one another, and then that's all gone. And so what that did is it launched me on. So since the beginning of January, I've been going back through, thankfully, his legacy, his social media posts, of which there's 400, I think, approximately, on this platform under the geobiologist, and that is like a masterclass in all sorts of things having to do with the ley lines, energy, hidden knowledge, and what's happening with the cosmic weather. He also did a newsletter on his website is still up. It's roryduff.com, and he did a monthly newsletter. So I've been going back through it, kind of doing a forensic study of his thought processes to try to find the answers to some of the questions that I had for him. And I'm now up to, the spring of 2022. And, each newsletter is pretty voluminous, between 30 and 70 pages, So that's kind of a priority for me because I feel, and what I have been working on for the past several years is another book to try to explain about the expansion of this Earth-settled energy field and what's happened and what's happening. And something's telling me that I should probably do a long talk about that online and announce it, and as a talk on the cosmic weather, because it directly relates to what you're seeing in the news right now and what you're feeling in your body right now, how you're sleeping or not sleeping, how you're eating or not eating, and your general health, like especially if you're experiencing things like heart issues or hydration issues or headaches or any of that sort of thing, anxiety, but also if you're experiencing any sort of awakening of certain psychic talents and that kind of intuitions and all that kind of, it's all related to the work that we've been doing. Geobiology, from my understanding, is how the earth relates to human health and how humans relate to the earth, and that's all the ley lines and nodes and power centers and sacred sites. That's what that's all about, is our interaction between these things. And so just the bottom line is that what we've documented is a complete reconfiguration of the Earth-settled energy field over the past 7 years. And, for Rory, back even further, I got involved in 2019 when he sent me an image of the archaeological site that I discovered back in 1994 in Big Sur. And 100 yards away from the archaeological site was a new node that had a new galaxy, a galactic line running through it. And so that's when I got involved. And it was the first place that I went after I had the first diagnosis in 2019 was at the solstice that December. I went to the mountain where that node is, and I camped in the middle of that node. First time I ever dowsed was dowsing. I didn't learn from it's funny, I didn't learn from Rory how to dowse. I just started doing it. And the first thing I dowsed was that node in Big Sur. And I camped in it for 5 days. That the answer to the question of what if you found out you had a life-threatening disease, what would you do? I always thought, well, I'll go to nature. I'll go to the mountain, and that's exactly what I did. I went and, meditated in that node for 5 days to try to get an understanding of what the fuck was happening and, what the universe wanted me to be aware of and so forth. But anyway, that's when I started, got involved with the subtle energy survey. And so I've been working on, neither one of us knew at the time what was going to happen. We didn't know that it was going to completely reconfigure itself into this completely new structure. And what that structure would look like or anything. And we've all in the interim between 2019 and now, we've all passed through this threshold, and there's no going back. There's no changing it. There's no off switch. There's no break or anything. We've passed through several thresholds, and we're now kind of through it, and there's this thing is happening, and it's only going to become more powerful as time goes on. Anyway, working on trying to put all those findings into some format that anybody that doesn't know anything about any of this stuff can understand. And so sometime probably in the next week or so, maybe tomorrow, maybe if today, what is today? Friday, maybe on Sunday. We'll see. I'll announce before. I'll do a live and just, tell everything that I know and record it. And so that's been happening. And then this last week, I got word on Tuesday, I think it was, that Diamond Dave from the Rainbow Gatherings, San Francisco poetry scene, passed away at 88. And then not 24 hours later, I got word that Dr. Brian Herman had passed. And Brian was one of the three friends who were doctors that whenever I would get any sort of test results, I would fly them by him to get his take. He was there for me at every major medical decision, and especially the one to undergo those surgeries. And he, he and his son, who's now a doctor as well, who I met them all on Venice Boardwalk back in 2004, and I'm the one that told them about Burning Man. I was like, dude, you got to go to Burning Man. You never heard of it? And I told them all about it and everything, and they became burners. His whole family became burners, and just goes to show you never know when somebody actually takes your advice, where that might lead, But he and his son, that day that I had to make a decision about whether or not to undergo the colostomy surgery, called me up, and they and my sister Chris and myself, we all kind of hashed it out and helped me make that decision, and every time he, every bit of advice he ever gave me was the right direction, and anyway, he it turns out that when I was going through that, was that 2 years ago, he he already had glioblastoma, brain cancer, and I'm not sure that he knew that at the time, but it wasn't long after that he did know and started treatment for it. And I don't know what you know about glioblastoma, but it's a son of a bitch. It my friend Kelly Phipps, the person I learned astrology from, passed from it back in 2014. And I helped him out during his hospice and everything. And they gave him 6 months, and that's exactly what he died 6 months later. Brian was very fortunate. He had it for 5 years, as it turned out, and approximately 5 years. So he beat the odds that way, and he had his physicality pretty much all the way until last fall. And it was a tough road for his family, because he was such an amazing human being. And he as a neurosurgeon who pioneered all of these new techniques for stroke mitigation and that kind of thing, he saved over 10,000 lives. You know what I mean? Another one of those, where the world doesn't know what it's lost. I was very fortunate, and one of the reasons why I went to Burning Man last year was because his wife, Dr. Deb, made it a point to get him back to the burn, and I was able to meet them there and spend 20 minutes, a half an hour or so with them. And they both fell asleep while I was there, and I just kind of tiptoed out and left them. But that's the last time I saw Brian alive. And up until then, he had his physicality, but he ended up having 2 surgeries right after that, and the second surgery didn't leave him in a good way. He had an infection and whatnot in it, and he passed last week. And so yeah, I'm to be honest, and why I'm talking so long on here is these things, they kind of point out. I've been through this 3 times myself, cancer, and when you're in it, it's just moment by moment, day by day. You can't look too far down the road. I mean, you have doctor's appointments and shit, but you don't really, that's not the priority. The priority is being right here, right now, and trying to stay in a joyful place as much as you can, So whatever it is, whether you're facing an operation or radiation or 5 months of friggin' debilitating chemo, it's you're always remaining present. It's all about like right now, what staying in joy, seeing, appreciating just everything, the green outside. You see this, you see the colorful, my ceiling. I found this tape at a Dollar Tree, and it's just kind of whimsical. So better than I got tired of looking at just the insulation. So when you're in that kind of day-to-day, moment-by-moment squeeze, you don't really, you're not thinking long-term. It ain't about where you were. It ain't about where you're going. It's about right here, right now. And this, these passages of my contemporaries, Rory and I were only he was, I think, 3 months younger than me. And same year, 1957. I don't know how old Brian was, but really close in age. And, it gives me a deeper appreciation for the fact that of what I'm still, psychologically, I'm still a bit of a mess, having gone through all this stuff. And I'm definitely I'm taking this opportunity from my friends' passages to appreciate what exactly it is that I've been through and the fact that I'm still here. The reason I'm making this video is because, as I've made all of them, is because I really feel like when you have something good to say, it needs to be said. And if you have something good happen, then you really need to mark the moment. So this is another moment marking. There's going to be other challenges on the trail, on the path, and I know that. Like, for instance, I put a lot of people helped out with a lot of money to get the van fixed about a month or so ago, and I've got to take it back. I just discovered when I got here, it's leaking fuel, and but I came up to these hot springs again to work on my blood pressure and this calf muscle, so that I can start flying in a couple of weeks. So there's always going to be something, there's always going to be a challenge, another challenge. But it's so important to mark the moment, to say, hey, I've got some great news, and to share it with whoever cares, whoever's, shows up. So I'm going to leave it there. And we'll take a moment's breath. Ooh. This painting right here, I did at Burning Man in 2023, right before this last cancer showed up, and the year that it rained so much. Yeah, that was one of the best Burning Mans I've ever been to. Anyway, remember, we love you.